the shot that stopped the room. The air inside the shooting range rattled as a loud bang echoed against the walls. Everyone's ears rang for a second before silence dropped heavy like a stone in water. All the eyes that had been laughing and rolling moments earlier froze, wide and stunned, on the farthest lane. There, standing in a plain, flower-printed dress that didn't belong in a gun range, was a woman most people had ignored, Mary. She wasn't holding her pistol like the others, stiff and perfect. No, her arm was steady but calm, like she had been born to hold it. And in front of her, the paper target didn't just have a shot near the bullseye, it had a shot right through the very center. A perfect, impossible hit. The man who had mocked her, the one everyone called the Snobby shooter, still had his arms crossed, his lips curved in a smirk he hadn't quite finished before the sound of her shot swallowed it whole. His fancy shooting glasses reflected the glowing red circle of Mary's perfect hit. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The only sound was the faint flutter of the paper target swinging back and forth. And then the Snobby shooter's jaw tightened. He slammed his gun down on the counter and shouted, "Beginner's luck," but his voice trembled, and everyone heard it. The mockery before the shot. An hour earlier, the shooting range buzzed with chatter and laughter. The men lined up in their tactical gear, showing off their expensive rifles and pistols, bragging about their skills. Among them stood Richard, the Snobby shooter. He wore custom gloves, polished boots, and a smug grin that never left his face. To him, the range was his stage, and everyone else were extras. That was when Mary walked in. She looked completely out of place. No camo pants, no protective vest, not even a fancy case for her gun. Just a plain purse slung over her shoulder and a second-hand pistol she carried awkwardly in her hand. Her dress was wrinkled, her shoes were flat, and her hair looked like she'd pinned it back in a rush. Richard spotted her instantly. Well, what do we have here? Did the church picnic let out early? His words made the group around him burst into laughter. Mary's cheeks flushed pink, but she didn't answer. She quietly walked to the empty lane at the far end, putting her things down as though she hadn't heard him. Richard wasn't done. Careful, sweetheart. That thing might kick harder than your kitchen broom. The laughter grew louder, crueler, until even people who didn't know him chuckled nervously. Mary's fingers trembled as she loaded her pistol, but her eyes were calm. She whispered something under her breath that no one could hear. And when she finally raised the pistol, her hand stopped shaking. The room grew still just before she pulled the trigger. The first trigger pull, the shooting range lights buzzed faintly as Mary took her stance. Richard leaned on his lane divider, grinning like a cat, waiting for the mouse to trip. "Don't point it at your feet, darling," he mocked. Mary didn't even glance his way. She breathed in, deep and steady, the noise of the crowd fading from her ears. Her finger curled against the trigger, smooth, gentle, not rushed like the others. Bang! The shot cracked through the air. Everyone leaned forward to see. The paper target swung wildly as it reeled backward, then steady, right in the center. Dead center. The laughter stopped mid-breath. You could almost hear hearts skipping beats. Even the range instructor at the desk looked up, blinking in disbelief. Richard's smile wavered. "One hit doesn't mean anything," he scoffed, though his voice was thinner now. Mary didn't answer. She simply reloaded. Click. Another bullet chambered. Her eyes never left the target. Bang! Another perfect shot, this time cutting through the same hole as before, splitting it wider. Gasps filled the room. A man in tactical gear muttered, "No way," under his breath. Richard's face burned red. He grabbed his own pistol, fired 3 rapid shots only to scatter them around the edges of his target. Nowhere near Mary's precision. The room erupted in whispers. And then Mary calmly set her pistol down, looked at Richard for the first time, and gave him the smallest, most disarming smile. Richard's hand twitched. He wasn't laughing anymore. The singer's secret. Richard's smirk was gone now, replaced with clenched teeth and nervous sweat. He couldn't stand it, this plain woman, this nobody, showing him up in front of his crowd. He barked out, "Let's see if you can keep that up, sweetheart. Bet you can't do it while people are watching closely." He waved to the others, and soon a small crowd gathered behind Mary, whispering and pointing, waiting for her to fail. Mary picked up her pistol again. Her grip was light, but her presence was heavy. She closed her eyes just for a second. Her lips moved faintly. At first, people thought she was praying, but then they realized she was singing. A soft, almost ghostly hum slipped from her throat. It wasn't a full song, just a gentle melody, like something from a lullaby. It was so strange, so unexpected, that the entire room went quiet, straining to hear. Richard sneered. "What is this? American Idol with bullets?" His laugh rang hollow this time. Mary didn't stop. She let the hum steady her breathing, her rhythm, her focus. Her hand rose, the pistol aligned. Bang! The bullet tore through the paper. Dead center again. Bang! Another hole, perfectly inside the first. The melody continued, haunting and calm, until the range seemed wrapped in her voice. Every shot she fired sank into the same impossible spot. The bullseye wasn't just hit, it was erased. The whispers turned into stunned silence. Even Richard's friends leaned away from him, no longer laughing. And then Mary's song stopped, her final shot echoing in its place. She set the pistol down. The room was frozen, silenced by the singer's shot. The range was so quiet you could hear the ticking of the wall clock. Every paper target swayed gently, but only Mary's had been completely destroyed, its bullseye ripped apart until nothing was left but a jagged hole. Richard's hand shook as he tried to reload his pistol. His face burned red, but his confidence was gone. He raised his gun, fired 3 rush shots, bang, 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 and missed the bullseye entirely. The last bullet didn't even hit the target. Snickers rippled through the crowd. Not at Mary anymore, at him. Richard spun, pointing his finger at Mary like she had cheated. She must have practiced that trick. Nobody just walks in and... But no one listened. All eyes stayed locked on Mary. The simple woman in the flower dress who had walked in quiet and mocked, yet left the room in awe. The range instructor finally stepped forward, breaking the silence. "Ma'am," he said softly, "where did you learn to shoot like that?" Mary tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She hesitated, as if deciding whether to answer. Then, in the same calm voice she had used while humming, she said, "Singing keeps my hand steady. My father taught me. He was a soldier and a choir master." The crowd gasped. Richard's jaw dropped. Mary didn't smile this time. She just packed her pistol back into her worn bag, her movements unhurried. The people who had laughed at her before now stepped aside, giving her space as if she carried an invisible crown. And as she walked out, the only sound in the room was Richard's shallow breathing, drowned by the echo of her last shot, still hanging in everyone's ears. The singer's shot had silenced everybody.